What's up, everyone? Welcome back to the Landlord Chick podcast. So this is part 2 of our Create Your Own Lead Funnel series. And in this one, we're talking about direct mailers. So I'm going to call it old school. Now, old school doesn't mean it's the wrong way. It doesn't mean it's old fashioned. If you listened to the last episode, you know that I personally prefer a digital marketing campaign. But you know what? Plenty of people have had and still have success with direct mailers. So in this episode, we're going to dive into creating your own direct mailer. We're going to talk about what media do you use? Do you use a postcard? Do you use a letter? How do you decide who you're going to send that mailer to? We're going to talk about what your mailer should say. How many reaches do you have to make with them before they'll actually maybe contact you? We're going to give you the lowdown on everything we can possibly think of and cover in about 25 minutes about creating your own direct mailer marketing campaign. Stay tuned. Building a real estate portfolio is as much about buying properties as being a de facto entrepreneur. I'm Karina Ufinger. I'm a multi-property investor, rental management company CEO, and also a landlord coach. I'm going to show you the systems and knowledge you need to thrive as a real estate entrepreneur. From your first property purchase to building a portfolio of passive income where you work less than 5 hours a week, you'll learn the essential information and skills to build a profitable portfolio and live the life you truly want. Whether you are well on your journey or just starting out, you're in the right place. Welcome to the Landlord Chick podcast. Thanks for joining me for this episode. So I just want to say first that while we're mentioning 2 ways to build your lead funnel in 2023, there's actually a third way that you could build your lead funnel, and that is Bandit Signs. So Bandit Signs are Bandit. And these are the signs that you often see on the corners of major intersections, and they're little tiny yard signs. These are the signs that'll say, "We buy ugly houses," "No house scary enough." These are very much associated with wholesalers and flippers. They're not necessarily associated with sort of buying turnkey, buy and hold or anything like that. But you've probably seen some of these signs around. Now, Bandit signs are good. I have no problem with Bandit signs. I think you can get some good visibility from them, especially if you have some sort of company name on them. But there are a couple of intricacies that you need to know about Bandit signs. So first, if you're in a municipality, so a village, town, or city, it's very possible that Bandit signs require a permit. So you'd have to go to your city hall, register your Bandit sign. At that time, you're going to pay for a permit. That permit is going to be good for X number of days, X number of weeks. And then your sign can be placed at that particular intersection for as long as that permit is valid. Now, you can come back to the city hall and renew your permit before it expires. Or if you're just choosing to not continue with it at that intersection, you would let it expire. You will pull your sign. Probably, honestly, I would do it towards the end of the day. On the last day it's valid. I wouldn't even wait till the next day. Because if the city goes the next day and removes the sign, you're not going to get it back. So I always tell people to be about 12 hours ahead of the curve and just go ahead and pull your sign 12 hours early before you get to midnight or whatever the next day, so that you don't run into the possibility that you're going to lose your sign. So pull your sign that you can go and put it at your next intersection or put it back in your garage if you're not going to be using it, whatever you're going to do with it. Now, Bandit signs are really great if you don't necessarily care about geographic specificity. Now, you might be thinking, wait a minute. I mean, it's being put on a certain intersection. Yeah, but people drive by that intersection from Lord knows where. You could have people driving past that sign that are just driving through town. Like they're not even stopping in town. They could be from 2 towns over. They could be from 2 counties up. But they're going to be seeing your Bandit sign. So if you're not wholly dedicated to one particular neighborhood or one particular city, I think that Bandit signs are a great idea. I don't necessarily recommend doing a Bandit sign if you are looking at one particular city, even though still the vast majority of people that are likely going to see that are going to be from the city. I just have a feeling that you'll be siphoning through a lot of leads that aren't applicable to you. Because you could be siphoning through leads for another city over or 3 cities over. And if you're focusing just on one specific city like Sioux Falls, you don't want to have people from the neighboring cities around Sioux Falls contacting you because you're not interested in that. So I think bandit signs are great when you're not necessarily geographic specific and you're kind of open to different options as to where the property is located. Certainly don't even do a bandit sign if you're only focusing on a particular neighborhood or neighborhoods in a larger city. That's not going to work because you're definitely going to get people calling from other neighborhoods. So bandit signs are a great tool to have in your tool belt. I wouldn't use them as a solo tool, so don't only use bandit signs. I would use it in correlation with either digital marketing or direct mailers. But certainly, if you feel you want to go that route, you could certainly do a bandit sign. Bandit signs, you always do call or text to a number. You don't really put an email address or like a website because people don't have time when they're sitting there at a stoplight or whatever to like get all that taken into consideration. Plus your signs are smaller too. Remember, these are like little small yard signs that you see for rummage sales. So they're really not that big, which means you're more focusing on your tagline, give us your scary house, sell us your scary house, and then your phone number in big text. And maybe possibly if you have room for it, like a company name in big text. That's really going to be the extent of your bandit sign. So they're really super specific. You're not going to be able to have anything about like generalized what you're looking for, anything like that. But bandit signs are a great option to have if you feel like you want to go through the hassle of having one. Now, that's bandit signs. So we've done bandit signs, we've done digital marketing. Let's get into direct mailers, which is what you're here for. So let's get started talking about our direct mailer campaigns. So for starters, we need to figure out how we're going to compile and or get our list. I say get your list because it's possible to buy real estate lists from companies. So there are companies out there that cater specifically to real estate investors that want to do direct mailer campaigns, and they take out a lot of the hassle by compiling dozens and dozens of data points and creating a list of these types of property owners in a specific area. Now, I highly recommend you go on your forum and see who other people have used and they've had success with using. You certainly don't want to pay $100 for a list which ends up being really out of date. So this is one of those things I definitely believe in getting recommendations from people who are actively doing it themselves. So go on your real estate forums and ask who they are buying their real estate lists from. That'll give you a good indication of some decently reputable companies to use. Now, when you go to actually purchase a list, you go to one of their websites or you start talking to them, they're going to want to know what sort of parameters you are looking to build a list off of. So your parameters at the very least is going to start with a state if you're in the US. So maybe you're looking at Alaska, Oklahoma, and South Carolina, or just one of those. But at the very least, you're going to have to pick a state. You can pick counties. So you could certainly tell them, obviously, let's go with Wisconsin. And you could say, I want to do Kenosha County, Racine County, and Waukesha County. And I would like that to be the geographic area we're covering. Great. Now you can even drill that down a little bit more. And you could say, in Wisconsin, in Kenosha, Racine, and Waukesha counties, I want a list of people that have recently entered or been in probate for a property. Or I want a list of people that are delinquent on their property taxes. You can drill down and get specific lists. You can even get divorce proceeding lists. Like in some ways, the world is kind of your oyster with the lists because like you can get pretty darn specific. I know I've seen a couple places that you can get a list of properties that are geographically located within like a 3-block radius of a college campus. Like the world is sort of your oyster in regards to what you want the list brought to you as. Now, a lot of places have like presets like, okay, we can get you a list by state for these purposes, and you can even drill down by county. But the biggest thing with the list is making sure that you're using a reputable one that comes recommended to you by other people who've had success. And two, you at least spend a little bit of time considering if there's any little niches that you want to have on your list. So not just give me all the properties that are multifamily or duplexes in Iowa County, Iowa. You're likely going to want to get a little bit more focused than just sorts of that. Now, so we've talked about buying lists. What if we're going to create our own list? Well, we're going to call that driving for dollars. Driving for dollars is, in my book, it's one of the coolest things to do because you get to go around and explore the city. And sometimes in a way you never really would have thought about it, because when we drive through a city, we're usually focused like where we're going, or we're focused at looking at all the cool businesses that are like in town, or all the restaurants and the gas stations. And we're not necessarily looking at the homes and the residential properties. So I really like it when I get the opportunity to kind of like drive around for dollars and I'm looking around and I'm just exploring either the city I live in or a city I'm visiting or a city, another aspect of a city I have rentals in. It's just kind of fun and exciting, like a little treasure hunt. So driving for dollars, I will say this, it's always best when you have a partner in the car. So obviously one person driving, one person being the passenger. The driver's primary responsibility is to obviously drive and obey all traffic laws, of course, but also they should have their eyes out as well, sort of, and just be able to make sure that you aren't missing too many properties. Now, when you're driving for dollars, the passenger is going to be taking on a bulk of the load. So they're going to be the one who's going to be kind of looking ahead and being like, oh, okay, could you pull up in the next block? And then I'm going to get out and walk around a little bit and write down some addresses. So driving for dollars, if you have nice weather and everything, one of the things I like to do is you just kind of like look around and notice you're driving down a block. I'm like, okay, so there's 3 on that block. So either let's circle back and get these addresses, or I'm going to get out and I'm going to take a walk and I'm going to get a picture of the front of the house. And then I'm going to write down the address as well on my tablet that I have, just so that I know that that's a property I want to mail to. Now, what are the things we're kind of looking at? Like, you're driving for dollars. You're not just writing down like every single address. Well, no, you're not. So, and this all depends on, again, what your funnel is going to be. Maybe you're looking at multifamily. So you want a duplex, or you want a triplex, or you want more than that. You're just driving around first based on finding duplex, triplex, quad, whatever your parameters is for the type of investment property. Then the next thing is you're likely going to have some sort of criteria for what the appearance is on the outside. Most people find that their direct mailers have success when they're mailing what are called distressed sellers. So these are people that either the property isn't all right or they themselves are not all right. And usually when they don't have their stuff together as people, that reflects on the property anyway. So you're looking for properties that maybe have really tall grass, looking for properties that have a lot of chipped paint or chipped siding, or maybe it's something where there's some broken windows. You're looking for signs of distress on the property. And those are the ones that you want to jot down as part of your own driving for dollars list. Now, driving for dollars should definitely be in organized fashion. So what I mean by that is have a succinct route that you are following, just to be sure you don't miss any streets or side streets. So here's a good example. If you start driving down Church Street at, First Street, so you're driving down Church Street from 1st to 10th, and you drive all the way down to 10th, you don't go down any of the side streets yet, because you're just driving down Church Street from 1st to 10th. So have an organized fashion like that. And then maybe what you'll do is next time you're not going to go that same route, but maybe you'll have a street named Elm Street and you'll go on Elm Street from 1st to 10th. So you're going to create some sort of organized grid. Now, your grid can likely be determined already by districts or areas that kind of exist in that city where you want to have property or are likely to find what you're looking for. So most of us generally know that in the cities we live in, we know the areas of newer construction. And then we also have an idea of the areas where maybe we're going to get a lot more of the historical homes, the ones that were built, 1860s, 1880s. And then you likely also know the sections of maybe what are not so great neighborhoods. And then you're also going to have your sections that are right near schools. So you likely already have an idea of the specific areas that you might want to drive around for dollars. And just be sure you're creating a nice, succinct grid that you can follow through with to make sure you don't miss any of these side streets, because when it gets down to it, there's a lot of side streets that start popping up when you look at these areas driving for dollars. Now, driving for dollars is something that you could also technically be doing as part of any sort of like delivery job. So I know quite a few people who have actually done driving for dollars while delivering for Amazon or for Jimmy John's or whatever it may be. But any job that they've had where they drive around, they love doing that because it allows them to drive for dollars while actually driving to earn money. So if you're someone who would maybe like to do Uber on the side or something and could qualify for that, doing Uber while driving for dollars is a really great idea. Now, of course, it's a little bit hard in the sense of you can't pull over immediately when you see a property that looks derelict, but at least helps you get an idea of the areas, and maybe possibly you could trek back a little bit and then get the address of the specific property you found. Like, oh yeah, that was the one I drove past just a few minutes ago. Write down that address, 1323 Oak Street. So you certainly could do driving for dollars as part of your job, and then you would be killing two birds with one stone, because you'd be making money to buy rental properties and you'd be driving around, learning the neighborhoods, doing a little bit of driving for dollars. Driving for dollars is a great thing to do if you have a student driver. So if you have somebody who needs the hours to get their learner's permit or to get their full-blown driver's license, it's a great idea to have them drive you around town, because they're obviously going to go a little bit slower and be a little bit nervous probably, which gives you more time to write addresses down, and it gets them the experience that they need. So that's also a really, really cool thing to consider, is taking your son or daughter, your niece or nephew, or a grandchild, whoever has to get some hours in the car with a supervised driver to get their license would be a great person to have do driving for dollars with you. So we know where we're going to get our addresses. We've talked about where we're going to get them. The next thing we need to do is we need to talk about, well, what are you going to send them? The most common two things are postcards and then letters. So postcards are, well, exactly what you think of. They're just postcards. There's no letter, there's no envelope. Postcards tend to feel a little bit less personal when they are used for mass mailers. Obviously, a postcard that your friends send you from Amsterdam, that's really personal. But generally, the feeling is that postcards from businesses or people that you don't know are impersonal. And there's a big reason for that, because here you can kind of blame realtors here. Realtors send a lot of postcards out. Me, as a licensed realtor, I don't send out postcards, but I can tell you I get a lot of postcards in the mail. I would say I get at least 3 or 4 postcards every month from various agents who are trying to gain listings in the area. So I think because of that, postcards has certainly earned this idea of just being impersonal and nobody really truly taking the time to look at them. They just automatically discard them right away in the rubbish. So postcards, I think, are okay, but if possible, if it's in your budget, because they are a little bit more, I would go with the personalized letters. Now, the letters, if you're thinking, I don't have time to write all these letters, guess what? Good news, you don't have to write all these letters. Because again, there are robot letter writing companies out there that will go ahead and print out all of your letters for you, and they'll really, really look like they're handwritten. Like, they are really well done. I've actually gotten a couple of them in the mail, and the paper will be indented on the back side, which denotes that it really was written on, versus, before you wouldn't really have that indentation. But this paper looks truly written on, because if you flip it over and you put it by the light, you can see all the indentations from all the downstrokes and the upstrokes and the curves. So it really is well done nowadays with robotic letter writers. Now, robotic letter writers, they can take care of everything from start to finish. So there are plenty of companies, if you just do a simple Google search, you could come up with probably at least 3 or 4 robot letter writing companies that exist. Now, they don't have to be local to you. You really don't need to. You can even get something that's very nationally well known. Simply Noted is a good one. Penpoint Tech is one I've heard of as well. And these are companies that will actually take care of it for start to finish from you too. So not only could they do the writing of a letter with a robot, if you wanted to, you could use some of their pre-made letters, content that they have available for you to pick from. And you could even upload your list somewhere for them so that they can go ahead and stuff the envelopes, write out the envelopes, and send out these letters all for you. So it really could be completely hands-off beyond getting that list. You just pick your form letter, give them your list, and boom, it's off to the printers. So that's a really good way to be hands-off with it. Now, a couple of things about that letter. What do we want the letter to come across as? Well, first, we want it to be personal. Because we want it to be personal, the invitation for action should correlate to a phone number. You really want to have the impression of it being personalized. Asking someone to send you an email really doesn't feel that personal. But encouraging someone to send you a text or to call you, that feels personal. So with your letters, you definitely want to encourage them to call you as their call to action. Now, it doesn't mean you can't have a website listed. Absolutely positively. If you have a Facebook page or you have an actual web page, absolutely put it on there. Put it on there as to find out more about what I'm doing. Follow this link to Facebook or go to this link to my website. But your letter definitely needs to be personal. A good personal touch is also to include something about the city. So maybe you know that city is known for having a lot of beautiful parks and that it's getting a lot of attention on the national radar for employment. A great thing to do is to mention those things in the first paragraph because it's very specific for that locality, for that city, which is going to make people feel even more enticed to give you a call because you really aren't just a person sending out a gazillion of these everywhere with a very generic message. The more personal something feels, the more likely people are to respond to it. So when you're creating your letters or when you're having your robot letter company draft your letters, be sure they're including some personal touches like that are geographic area specific. The next thing with direct mailers is that you really should understand that it's going to take between 5 to 8 touches for them to contact you. So with touches, this is what it's going to take for the number of mailers they get before they say, you know what, I'm going to call that person. It does take quite a few contacts. They need to get between 5 to 8 of your mailers. The first one they're likely going to look at and go, oh yeah, that's, really cool. Maybe I'll do it. Or they'll just throw it away. A couple weeks later, your second one comes. Oh yeah, I remember seeing this one before. Oh, I wonder what happened to that one. Oh, well, I'll leave this one here and then I'll call them. Or, yeah, I'm just not going to call them. Let's say we're at 8 weeks now, 10 weeks now from the original one. Your third one. Wow, this person's really getting persistent. Huh, all right. Well, maybe I should give them a call or maybe I should check out this website. Yeah, I think I'll go to their website right now. So they go to your website, but then they get distracted and you know how that goes. Then your next one comes, they're like, oh yeah, that's right. I looked at their website. It looked really good. All right, I'm seriously going to call them right now. And so what do? They pick up their phone and they call you. It takes multiple touches with direct mailers especially. The first 1 or 2, they want to see if you're serious. The longer you stay with it, the more committed you come across, the more likely they are to offload their property to you. Then it becomes a matter of keeping yourself in the front of their minds so that they saw your first couple ones, but now that you kind of hooked them in the sense of they're not throwing them away straight away anymore, you just kind of got to remind them every once in a while that you still exist and that you're still looking to buy their property. Now, everyone has their own recommendations for how much you should spread these out. Are you going to do it once a quarter? Are you going to do every 6 weeks you're going to reach out? I think you want to look at specifically how quickly you want to achieve your goal. So if you're trying to move really fast, you don't want to have too slim of a list for your direct mailer. And then you also don't want to go too far out with your timeline. Now, you can be too close together. And perfectly honest, anything that is more than 3 weeks, less than 3 weeks, is going to be too close together. So if you sent it on the first week of the month, sending anything sooner than, let's say, the last week of the month is going to be too soon. You're going to come across as way too persistent, because there's the side of the scale where it's like you look professional and that you're committed, but yet there's the other side of the scale where you just come across as way too pushy. So avoid being too pushy. Ideally, your sweet spot, I'm going to say, is somewhere between like 5 to 6 weeks. That's your sweet spot. The last thing on earth you want to do, the worst thing you could do for a direct mailer campaign, is only do one contact. If you're only going to do one contact and you only have enough money for one contact, here's a better idea to use your money for. Put it in a high yield savings account for 3 months. And then when you have the additional money to do a second round, then do your marketing campaign. The worst thing you can do is get a list and only send out one mailer in 6 months. That is the worst thing you can do. That is absolutely wasted dollars, because very, very rarely, if ever, do you truly get someone to contact you off of one contact. So always, always have in your budget for at least 2 contacts. At least 2. I just told you that usually takes between 5 to 8. That's the average for when the majority of people start to respond. So plan accordingly. Plan it so you aren't just sending out one, and that you aren't just sending out one every 6 months or one every year. That's not going to get you anywhere. Build out your budget so you make multiple points of contact within a 6-month period. Get their attention, keep their attention, get them to that call to action to text you or to call you. Now, because you're going to be taking in these leads over the phone, you've really got to have a good system in place for how you record your incoming leads. So you're going to want to either create a spreadsheet, or maybe if you're familiar with Trello. I love Trello. Trello is a great thing that can be anything you want it to be. You could use it as a CRM. You could pay for a real CRM. However you want to do this. If you're starting out rather low budget, just start with a spreadsheet. Keep it simple. Then maybe as you get a little bit more busy, you get a little bit more leads. Maybe you can develop a CRM for yourself in Trello or Slack or wherever else you want to do it. Or you can even start buying a CRM when you kind of get a lot more money coming in. But be sure that before your mailer goes out, you have your template of the questions you're going to ask them, the answers they're going to give you, where you're going to put that stuff. And be sure you know everything about that property by the time you get off the phone with them. With direct mailers and phone conversations, that first phone conversation when they call you, it's really important to answer it, and it's important to spend as much time on the phone with them as you possibly can to get a lot of information. Because the longer you can keep them on the phone and get more information, the more likely you are to be able to move this deal forward quickly. And that was usually what everyone is looking for that calls you from a direct mailer, is they are looking for efficiency and quickness. They don't want to be answering your questions over the course of 3 or 4 phone calls or 3 or 4 emails. Have all of your questions ready to go. Get through all of them. Or if they don't have time to answer all of them, then have a way that you can send them a form. Have a way that you can send them a link to a form. Create a Jot form. Create a Google form. Whatever you want to do. But have multiple ways that you can intake this information and have a specific place that you are tracking it, so that you can compare easily all your different leads that you have and what the status is of them. Once the information starts coming in and you make your initial entries, then the next thing you need to do is create some sort of follow-up calendar for yourself for the leads that have contacted you. So with these leads that have contacted you, and maybe you've had initial phone conversations, you need to have some sort of plan for tracking on a calendar what the next steps are and when it should get done. Or maybe you know specifically you set up a phone call on March 2nd, enter that in a calendar somewhere, make sure everything's all ready to go that you need for that appointment. But have a way that you're tracking the next steps and the next deadlines that you have for each lead as well. That is direct mailers in a nutshell. I really did a big overview of this one. We could get a lot more information in there about the lists, the letter writing, the envelopes, all of this stuff. But really, this is meant to be an over-encompassing idea for helping you guys to get your own wheels going so that you can figure out where you want to go for building your lead funnels in 2023. I hope between this episode and the last one, you guys got something out of it for how you can build a lead funnel this year. I am working on my new social media campaign for 2023. My goal is to have that up and running before middle of June on social media over on LinkedIn, Facebook, and Google AdWords. I'm really excited to get started with it. It's been, I'd say, about 3 years since I did any sort of marketing campaign on social media for anything. And this is the first one I've done specifically for myself. I've set them up before for other clients. I've monitored them before for clients, but this is the first one I'm doing specifically for myself. So that makes me super, super excited about it. All right, guys, I hope you enjoyed this episode. I hope you got something out of it, and I will see you next time.